Hi, this is Jeff. I'm going to be stepping through how to replace the Bose standard subwoofer that comes with the Armada with the Cadence Acoustics one. And you can use any subwoofer that you like, any aftermarket one, but in my case I'll be giving specific directions on the Cadence Acoustics one, which I happen to like quite a bit. So first step is, of course, to open up the hood. And you can see that the unit's already been installed, but I'll step you through as if it had not been installed. But you want to remove both cables to the battery, both positive and negative terminals need to be disconnected. And then, of course, you need to open up the door, and you need to remove all four bolts to the chair, to the driver's side chair, which is where the subwoofer is located. But you can see here, I'll take this panel off here shortly. Take this off, as well as that bolt there. And get the flashlight here to make this a little bit easier to see. That bolt as well, and then you have two more in the back. And then if you look inside the center console, because you'll need to remove this too to get access to the 12-volt power and to trigger the subwoofer on, there are a couple things. You can see the tab right here, and if you remove this tab, you'll see that there's a standard hex nut that you need to take off. And you've got one also right over here on this side. So you got two of them. And if you look down here in the panel, remove this, and I'll get the flashlight down here so you can see. Take that panel out, and you can see that you got 3 set screws that you need to remove, and the whole panel will lift out. So when you lift the panel out, be careful, because you've got wire bundles here for the if you have the DVD player that will be connected in. So you can't lift it all the way out unless you disconnect the harness. But remove those hex nuts and remove those 3 set screws on the bottom, and gently lift the unit out, and you should be good to go. Okay, so now we have pulled the center bin out. I'm going to point out a few things. One is, if you look underneath here, you can see the wiring bundle that connects to the DVD player. And you can remove this harness if you like. I don't like to do it unless I absolutely have to, because sometimes these clips break and they're difficult to get on or off. So if I can just rest it up on the armrest like I've done right here, that's all the room that I need. The set screws, the hex screws that sat on the top underneath the rubber pads are 5.5 millimeter. Okay, so you'll need a 5.5 millimeter wrench to remove those things, but they're relatively small. So I have used some forceps, medical forceps that I bought at a flea market, and I use these for a lot of projects. But I use that to grip, those heads, so I can lift them out without them getting stuck in the bin or falling underneath something that you can't get to them. So anyway, just a handy little trick there. Now, with the bin out, you can see here the 12-volt power source, the cigarette lighter. And what I've done here, and I'm not going to take out the terminator caps, but I've clipped the wires off of this, and I've drawn out 2 additional wires so that I can run leads out underneath this console to underneath the seat and use that as the triggering source for the amplifier. And you can take it from here. I find it to be easiest to take it from this side instead of from the ignition wire or some other on source underneath the dash, simply because it's a quick lateral move underneath the console to the seat to reach the amp. You don't have to run wires up underneath the dash, along the carpet or anything else. So what I've done is just clip these 2 wires and then thread it through with the terminator caps, 2 additional wires, one be ground of course, and the other one being the hot source, and then put those underneath the console. Now, so remember, with the cigarette lighter, the 12-volt power source, the center wire will be the hot one, okay, will be the power. The one to the outside will be ground. So make sure that you, with the extra wires that you put in, that you know which one it is, and you mark them so that you have the power going into the amplifier, and the ground will be run to ground. Okay, before I remove the driver's seat, I want to point out how I pulled these wires out from the center console. I didn't actually tap through the plastic. You can, if you like, drill a hole through here and run the wires through. I just prefer not to drill unless I absolutely have to. But what I did was that I took a flathead screwdriver and I just kind of pried the carpet down and the plastic up enough to feed the wires through from the inside. So basically, once I had the wires tapped into the 12-volt source, and of course remembering always to remember which one was power and which one was ground, and fed it through over here, and I put later on I put a little cover on top of that. Then I'm able to access the power directly from this center console. Now, again, you can drill through the plastic, but just personal preference, I just prefer not to. Now, the other thing to remember is that this particular cigarette lighter, this 12-volt source, is triggered on with the ignition and off with the ignition. So it acts like an ignition wire. Okay, it's going to be on, when you turn the ignition on. It's going to be off when you turn the ignition off. You certainly want to be able to trigger your amp as such, and don't leave the amp on 24/7. Simply it'll drain your battery pretty quickly. So you want to make sure it triggers on, and this is very convenient because it's a triggered on, triggered off source with the ignition. Okay, so once the seat has been unbolted, and just gently recline it back, but be very careful not to put too much pressure on this cable here. You got your bundle here of wires that control the seat motors. You can see it's pulled pretty taut against there, so you don't want to put too much pressure on that and loosen any wires inadvertently. But you can see here the Cadence unit's already in place. But what I'd like to do is show you, what the existing Bose subwoofer, which is sitting over here, looks like. Now, how it's connected is that you just simply have this point the camera over here, this little connector, and put a little downward pressure on the release tab, and you just basically pull it out. Okay, and here's what the receptacle look like. And this is the only power and signal connection to the subwoofer. The rest are just screws. You can see you got 3 of them. Let's see if we get the camera in here. Got one on the left side. You got one here on the right. Can't quite get in there. You can see it here. One in that section, and you got one in the front. Let's see if I can turn this thing so you can see what that looks like. And that's the 3rd one. So remove those 3 screws, and the whole unit lifts out pretty easily. It's not heavy, pretty lightweight, which is probably some of the problems with the subwoofer, besides being underpowered, is that it has no heft to really kind of get the vibrations that you want. So anyway, remove the subwoofer and set it aside.